This is Mrs. Graysmark, and I'm going to make our blondies for you today. We miss cooking for you and miss being at Castilleja, and thought you got a lot of events coming up towards the end of the year. And I was wondering if you might want to learn how to make blondies, and you can make them for your families as you enjoy some of our events at home. So let's get started. Blondies are a super easy recipe. The first thing you really want to do is to get all of your ingredients together like I have here. So I have a cup of butter, and this is softened butter. I usually leave it out overnight so that it gets really soft. You can do it in the microwave, but you got to be very careful. You just want to do it for like 20 seconds. I start with 10 seconds. Sometimes that's enough just to soften it if you're taking it straight out of the refrigerator. You don't want it to be melted. It'll totally change the consistency of your recipe. Softened is what you want. You'll see when I press on this, it gives very nicely. That's really the consistency you want, but it still looks like butter. So not melted is the key. I have 2 1/3 cup brown sugar. I'm peeking at my recipe there to make sure I'm giving you the right amounts. 2 cups and 1/3 of brown sugar. Whenever you measure brown sugar, you do it packed. So you put your scoop in there and you kind of press against it a little bit. Brown sugar wants to be compacted when it's measured. I have 2 eggs, and I have a tablespoon of vanilla here. These are my wet ingredients. My dry ingredients are 2 cups of flour. I have baking powder, which is in here, and I have salt in here. It is 2 teaspoons, I believe. Let me double check. 2 teaspoons of baking powder and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt is in here. Your pan is a 9 by 13 baking pan. If you don't have a baking pan like this, you can use a cookie sheet on this recipe. You want to use a spray. I use a canola spray, and you want to always prepare your pan before you get started. So I'm spraying it really good. Excuse me. So that is my pan prepared. I'm going to start by creaming the butter and the sugar. Anytime you start with a cookie recipe, you start with creaming the butter and the sugar together. So this is our butter, 1 cup of butter, and our 2 1/3 cups of brown sugar. You can do this by hand. I have a fancy red Castilleja mixer, so I am going to use my mixer here. But you can do this by hand. This just goes a lot faster. So we're going to mix this. You'll see how fast this goes. All right, so we have creamed our butter and sugar together, and now we're ready to add the eggs. You add the eggs one at a time. Make sure it's really incorporated, and then add the second egg. There are 2 eggs. So I'm adding the first egg, mixing it real good. And then I'm adding the second egg. All right, we've incorporated both of the eggs. I'm now going to add the vanilla. I'm pouring the vanilla in and going to give it a quick mix. It's usually about this time I might scrape down the sides of the pan just to make sure. Some people's mixers don't get to the very bottom. So I just gave it a little bit of scrape on the bottom of the pan just to make sure we got everything incorporated. I'm going to mix the baking powder and the salt in with the flour. You kind of mix it together beforehand. You don't put it in separately because sometimes the baking powder, it will clump a little bit and it'll leave pieces, and it's terrible when you're after you baked it to have those little pieces. So it's better to mix it into your flour. I'm going to add my dry ingredients now. Keep your mixer on low. You don't want the flour to kind of splash back at you. Add it slowly. I'm going to turn it up now that's mostly incorporated. Now it's all mixed. You have an option at this point with blondies to add nuts. We don't do it at school because we've got students that have nut allergies. But blondies are delicious with chopped pecans, chopped walnuts. It adds a little more protein source to the food. It's a nice addition. So you can add chopped pecans, about a cup of chopped pecans if you would like to at this point. I'm not going to, but you can. All right, so I've cleaned off the mixer, and I'm going to now put it into the pan that we prepared earlier. Okay. All right, welcome back. I have just checked the cookies and they're ready to come out of the oven, so I'm going to pull them out of the oven. There we go. And this is what they look like. You can test them, but you can just basically see they start to pull away from the sides, you still want a little bit soft in the middle. But I did give it, I said 25 minutes when I started. It actually cooked for 30 minutes. And I'm gonna let them cool for about 10 minutes, and then you can cut them up and enjoy it. Thank you.